Hey, listeners, are you finding that you're distracted so much that you can't be creative or you can't get into your art room? Well, today's interview is all about how to get past that, how to get past that distraction and focus on your health and well being. More and more, I've realized that my body is part of what I take into the studio, and I can't be the best artist until I have my health in balance. So stay tuned and learn how you can improve your health and well being. Good day. This is the Spiritual Artist with Chris Miller, and I am pleased to have today's guest, and I'll tell you why. It has been a frazzled kind of day for me, a frazzled kind of week. And so sometimes spirit leads you to exactly what you need to hear or who you need to hear it from. I found that when I have an issue, and I've noticed this in several podcasts, when I have an issue, suddenly someone comes my way that's going to help walk me through it. And I think that spirit actually pushes these challenges in front of me for just that reason. And so I am feeling really frenetic. My guest we had tentatively had it scheduled for yesterday, and then we both had a clash of communication, and I missed her. And so I'm so excited to pick this up today. But I am here with Dr. Lori Eanes, and she is going to speak on health and integrative health. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Dr. Lori. So good morning.
Good morning, Chris. Hi, I am Dr. Lori, and I'm a practicing physician, a speaker, a teacher, a wellness coach, and I work with patients, physicians, executives, and corporate wellness programs, showing them how to have better health with less medicine using my 5 simple solutions.
Well, that is good. I think this is perfect because I was like, I'm just going to go and drop this on your doorstep. We talked something we mentioned in our pre-interview. You mentioned distraction disorder. And I love that. I love that terminology. And I think that we in America, especially, but all over the world, are dealing with distraction. So tell me, I'm frazzled. I will tell you, I do have my one ritual. I poured myself some chamomile tea.
Oh, nice. That's not what's in my cup, but nice.
So what would you recommend if you're feeling distracted and frazzled? And so from a health perspective, how would you walk someone through that?
What we have to do is simply stop. One word, stop. That's it. That's what we have to do. Because what you have to do, our feelings are really simply thoughts that emanate from the mind. And what we have to do is retrain the brain and our thought processes. And the only way to do it is to do it. And so when we are in a state of frazzlement and, a lot going on and all over the place, because I get this all of the time. I get the same thing all of the time from patients. I'm feeling I must have ADD. I need to be tested. I'm sure my memory is going. What is it? And I said, it is a diagnosis for that. It's called doing too much. That's the diagnosis. And I think that is really prevalent for all of us right about now. I mean, no time, Chris, in the history of human existence have we had so much information, so much stimulation, so much distraction, and it's leading to really a mental disorder. Because the brain is trying to keep up and catch up with all that is going on around us. And we're expecting that to be normal, or we're expecting to feel normal in doing so. And many times we don't. So what we have to do is control the mind and not let the mind control us.
And that's by
simply stop.
Well,
and one of the things that I did, because yes, I was running around just like you, trying to get online and trying to be here. And so I try to make an intention that if I know I have a planned conversation, I'm going to sit down 20 minutes prior and just sit. And then I feel like I've allowed myself to adjust into this moment. But when we don't do that, like pause, I heard someone say, before a plane takes off on the runway, you don't just pull up to the runway and keep going. Most of the time, that does not happen. What happens is you pull up to the runway and they pause. So that's what we have to learn to do and make that an intention. And it feels so much better when we do. Because now I'm like, okay, I'm right here with Chris.
That's good. I usually do that. And I had like 5 minutes of pause before this call, but I usually do have more time.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that's really great for this interview too is I just finished an interview with an artist named Daniela Pascalini, and she talks about how she prepares before she goes to paint. Before she walks into the art studio, she has a ritual and she prepares. And so what you're saying is that we should do that more in all through the day, I guess, is kind of slow down.
Yeah, exactly. Because how else can we possibly get through all the 60,000 thoughts that are going through our minds in this one day? We're not going to do it. So we really do have to pick and choose what's important and focus on where we need to be in the moment.
Well, so going with that, tell the listeners a little bit about your background, because I know that you are a doctor who's actually worked in emergency medicine. Do you still do that? Do you still have shifts in emergency rooms? And
no, thank goodness. No, thanks goodness. Yeah. So I've done everything from emergency medicine to urgent care, family medicine, occupational medicine, internal medicine. But my true passion and my true love is integrative medicine. What that means is using all forms of healing, whether that is herbology, whether that is nutrition, whether that is mind-body medicine, using exercise therapy, meditation, all of the things that have been used for centuries, quite frankly, around the world that we have failed to incorporate into our forms and our methodology of healing. So that's what I have been trained in for many, many years. I trained with Dr. Andrew Wild in my early days, more than 20 years ago. And he really set the course of how I practice medicine, because when I looked at what he was doing just in his Natural Health magazine, Ask Dr. Weil, and he was giving others these alternative solutions to their well-being. And I knew that was who I wanted to be. And so therefore I set on a path of doing training, and of course I'm a yogi and I do meditation regularly. And I show people how they too can do the same thing. So I tell patients, I say, don't just do what the doctor says. In my case, do as the doctor does. So that's a question, no kidding, that you might want to ask your healthcare providers. Hey, doc, what is it that you do for your personal well-being? Because if you were selecting a trainer, a fitness trainer, you kind of want them to look like they're fit when selecting that trainer. Now, yes, doctors are masterful at what we're trained to do. So it doesn't necessarily matter what we look like. If you need a world-renowned brain surgeon, you could care less about what he looks like or she looks like, right? She's got the gift and the skill to master what it is that you need from them. But that's kind of how my path began, and really where it really began when I looked at my family and my mamas and my aunties, and they were engaged in herbal medicines early on, and they would use these remedies and concoctions for the kids. It was only a couple of us, but they would be in the kitchen making things when we had a stomach ache, and it was simple things like peppermint teas.
So you actually had an advantage because you grew up with that around you.
So I got to see that as a child and experience it. And so I kind of understood that, wow, maybe there's more than one way to heal. And when I made the decision to practice medicine, and that was after a career in advertising, I went back to school because it truly was a calling for me. It was something that I had a burning curiosity about. And that curiosity was not so much about how to treat an illness, but more importantly, why do we get sick?
You know what? I got to tell you a story because I love this.
Please.
I last year I had a career change, and I took a position in a job that really wasn't aligned with who I was, and it was very stressful in a weird way. And I started developing some skin issues that I've never had. And I went into the doctor and I met a dermatologist, and he looked at my fingernails and he said, "You have psoriasis. It's chronic. You will have it for the rest of your life."
No.
And I was like, "What? Don't tell me." I'm in my upper 50s, right? I'm like, don't tell me that I'm going to have something that I never had before. Suddenly it just pops up. Well, of course, his only solution was medicine. There's so many different brands out there now for psoriasis. And so I have been taking this medicine for the last year, but I left the job. And I have been pulling back on medicine. And I'll be honest with you, I don't see
it's clearing up.
It's clearing up. It's clearing up. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I changed my environment. And what I was forcing my body. And so someone told me, well, your body was telling you that job is not for you.
Exactly. So I am a huge proponent of mind-body medicine. The work of Louise Hay. And the thing that I often will ask my patients, whether it is a digestive problem, which is pretty much our number 3 complaint in this country in terms of illnesses, what in your life are you not stomaching?
Oh, wow. What
When it comes
say that again, because that's wonderful.
Right? What in your life are you not stomaching? And oftentimes, because the way I work as a contracted physician, I don't have my own personal panel. So I see patients I'm covering for other physicians. That's essentially what I do. So maybe oftentimes the first time I'm seeing them, but I go through their charts and I see what they've been prescribed, and I know how long they've been on what medicines. And when they are still having the same complaint or disorder, then I have to go to a place where probably no one else has gone with them, which I know can be the cause of it all, because our mind's a control tower of the body.
Right.
And so if I start to ask and delve into the why, because that's really what's most important to me, is the why of disease and disorder and imbalances. Why do we have them? I could come up with a pill for every problem, right? I'm trained to do that. But who wants that? So when I start delving into, when did this happen? And what was going on? Where were you working? Were you at home? Tell me a little bit about what was happening when this occurred, the beginning. So that's when we start to get to the source of the problems. And oftentimes, once I do that delving into it, then the patient will I can see the tears well up. They know that you intuitively know, we all know if we really stop and listen and be honest and forthright with our feelings. And so when it comes to skin disorders, I will often say, so what, Chris, in your life is getting up under your skin?
I love it. Well, it's true.
And it's usually the job. It's the job.
Yeah, the job. It was something it was more administrative and not creative.
Not creative.
And I just think it's amazing when we stop. I want to go back to what you said, ask why.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned as when I was training to be a spiritual coach, and it's such an obvious thing but we forget about it. We learn about it in grade school. We learn about the law of cause and effect, right? Yeah. That's all we study. Right. Science is cause and effect. But then we grow up and we have something wrong with us and we totally throw out cause and effect. And we're just like, give me a pill. Give me
a solution. I just need a solution.
Instead of looking at, well, maybe, yes, you could take some sort of Valium or something, or maybe you could practice meditation or yoga or calming down, and it's a shame, right? That so much in the medical industry, they don't talk about those things. So I'm glad to hear that you do.
I do. To me, I mean, we can't get to healing. I mean, and that's the book that I just submitted for copyright, More Healing, Less Medicine. We can't get to more healing and less medicine until we get to the cause.
Right. Right.
And if we're not asking those questions, delving into those, then we won't. We'll simply be prescribing a pill for every problem. And I love quoting statistics because I have to research them, and I research them over and over because some of them seem so outlandish that I'm like, this can't be true. And then when I keep finding repeated sources that acknowledge or quote it, I'm going to quote it, because sometimes we quote misfacts, if you want to call them that. They're not always facts. But yes, to my understanding, the US is only 5% of the world's population. That's a fact. But we consume 50% of all the drugs manufactured in the world. Wow. We are an over-medicated society. And even the places that are much larger than us, whether that be India or China or even Africa, they have traditional medicines in place. And so that becomes their system of healing. Sure, they have conventional medicine and modern medicine and scientific medicine as well, but for centuries, they have had systems in place for healing. And we have not in this country.
No, it's like we accepted science and then we throw out everything that man has experienced and wrote about for centuries, before that. We just threw it out. And I will say this, I want to share this with the listeners. I'm not saying don't take the medicine, because obviously the issue was so bad for me. I needed the medicine to get me through it. But I think that accepting the idea that it's chronic, try to forever
and ever. That's it. That's what you have. Now, I grant it. I mean, there are things in life and in our bodies that happen. And yes, I am so wowed and even awed by modern medicine and what we can do today that we could not even consider or imagine 50 years ago. I mean, the cancer survival rate today is almost 70%. It's pretty darn high. And that has a lot to do with modern medicine. I mean, the replacement of parts. Yes, this is what I say, you drive the vehicle long enough, there's going to be a part that doesn't work like it once did, right? That's just it. And so when it comes to the body, whether it's a joint that you wore out playing sports, or if it is just a part of your genetics that this is going to wear out faster, something is going to wear out, then 50, 60 years ago, you just would have suffered in pain, dragging a limb around that was not serving you well. But now we can send you to the parts department and you can get some new parts. And that's amazing. It truly is. It truly is amazing. So I like to say what I feel like I am most equipped to do is use the wisdom of our past along with the science of today. And that's what we call integrative medicine. And so why should we throw out everything that our grandmothers taught us, that that was used or practiced in the home, or that has been used around the world, because we're not the end all and be all to healing right here in the US, we're not. So why would we throw all of that out simply to have a pill for every problem when we know we know that there is that thing called side effects.
Uh-huh.
You've seen them on the TV commercials.
Oh,
I've
I know.
watched the commercials just like you, Chris.
I love the side effects. It cracks me up.
Exactly.
I think, it's funny. Everything has repercussions. Every decision has repercussions, and you just have to be conscious, right, and mindful about what they are and what you can process. I think, there's it with every situation. And so it's
Yes.
about being present, right?
Right. Right. And listening to your intuition, your insights, your gut, even your experience. And sometimes you don't have it all figured out. None of us do at all times. We don't have it all figured out. But once again, if we simply stop and listen to what we believe will be best for us. Part of the problem today is there is so much external influence that we have a difficult time trusting ourselves. And that's what I see more frequently than not. I know I don't want to take these medicines. I know I could do better. I know there's an alternative, but I heard about, so we continue to bring in the counter conversation of what we know to be true and perhaps even best for ourselves. And then when we do know it, oftentimes we're not willing to stand up for it.
Right.
So, yeah.
I when we talked earlier too, you had mentioned how important, and I love it. It really rang with me because it resonated with me. It's something I teach people that I coach, is when you get up in the morning, you do not pick up the phone. And my reason for that is because you're pulling in all that other messaging. You're usurping the control of yourself, right? You're giving up control and beliefs, and you're jumping in and accepting the beliefs of, you name it, right? The news, the political parties, any action committee, instead of sitting down and listening within, right?
Exactly. So, a morning process is so critical to just calming the nervous system. We lay down to rest and to sleep, but the mind is always at work. And even through our dreams, and even the dreams we don't remember, the mind is still working, and it's attempting to clear, and it's attempting to settle things and get some clarity. And oftentimes at that waking hour, we don't have that clarity yet.
Right.
Right. And so we wake up with oh my gosh, I need to do this. This is important. I have to do this. Let me check on this. Let me do this. And that's the state of what the mind is in upon waking. And so we wake up with the distractions. And so now, in addition to that, to turn on your phone, which I don't do before 10 a.m., to turn on your phone and start your day looking at more distractions is simply distracting. So if you can create a process, and I teach my patients and I teach clients that I work with coaching, I teach them a morning process. I was trained in Tai Chi and Qigong, and with Dan Yoga, body brain yoga. I trained with them for many years. And so I understand how we can gather ourselves. Well, essentially what we're doing is gathering our energy so that it is concentrated and focused where we need it to be. And what that does when you do a morning process, I'm also trained in tapping, so emotional freedom techniques. So whether it's tapping, just what all of these processes do is they reset the nervous system to almost like a 0 point. First thing. So, if you start and you've got tentacles all over the place, trying to grab for, reach for, and understand all of this information that your mind is trying to comprehend, in addition to looking at a phone or a television first thing in the morning, you are setting yourself up for just an exhausting day. So if we can start at 0 point using some form of meditation, that works for people first thing in the morning. A tapping process, using tapping, using qigong, and even energy exercise can also do it. Light exercise in the morning can do that as well. Getting outdoors first thing in the morning, if you can, for grounding, that can also do it. So we have to intentionally, like everything, it has to be an intention. If we can intentionally put in a process that we know, I'm going to start my day off just a little bit better, then why wouldn't we?
You know, all
Well,
those
I know
things.
why we won't, because we're distracted.
Right. And all those things you mentioned. So running around like earlier I was today, you have to pull, I would say, pull that toolbox out, right? And
Yes.
when you realize you're not at, sit down, do a little check. Am I at 0 point? I'm
Yes.
not. So what tools do I have? And what do I
Mhm.
want to do right now? Do I want to dance a little bit? Do I want to meditate? Do I want to do Tai
Mhm.
Chi? Do I just want to go
Mhm.
sit on the deck and
Mhm.
and watch the birds? So
Yes.
I love that concept. And earlier you were mentioning 5 steps, and I don't want to let go of those. Is that one
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the?
yeah. So my 5 simple solutions that I write about, and really they are taken from the Blue Zone, where whether that is Icaria, Greece, Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, Nicoya, Costa Rica, which is one of the places that I had the luxury of visiting, and even Loma Linda, California. These places have been researched as the healthiest, oldest, longest living populations in the world.
Huh.
And so, why would we not take a page from their book and utilize what it is we know can contribute to well being as well as longevity? So, the 5 simple solutions that I write about is nourishing the body, quieting the mind, moving with intention, seeking out joy, and having gratitude for all things in life. Because what we're doing with all of that is we're restoring, whether it's from a nutritional standpoint or whether it's from using appreciation of this moment, which is called gratitude. Those are the things that build our both physical and emotional resilience. And the more resilient we are, the healthier we'll be. So I teach all of those components and I write about them. And many people have, I just call them something a little bit differently, and position it a little bit differently. But if we can do those things, those are the things that help to ensure our well-being. And that I call 5 simple solutions. It's simple. I didn't name anything complex on there, did I?
No, you didn't. And so wait, did you, going back to something you said earlier, did you say those areas of the world were called the blue zone?
The Blue Zones has been by Dan Buettner, the researcher from the National Geographic, has written extensively, it's studied and written extensively. It was really popular information that came forth. I'm going to say around, I don't have the dates correct, but at least in the last 10 years.
And then he has a book
That's when
called,
it
is it
was,
a book called The Blue Zone, or?
yes.
Okay, I'll reference it in a
Yes,
caption for people.
the Blue Zones. National Geographic has a special edition magazine because he was commissioned, I believe, by the National Geographic, and
Well,
so yeah,
you said something else that I love too.
yeah,
You said that you have comprised this methodology for yourself.
yes,
And I think what I'd love to encourage the listeners to do, and I think everybody does when you're on this journey in life, is you build your own methodology. So you can't just adopt someone else's. You have to question it, each one, and say, does this work for me? Does this work for me?
right,
Because we're all different.
right.
There is no.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I like to say we all have a DNA. You're distinguishable, notable, and authentically you. That is your DNA,
Oh, I love it.
right? And so no one person on this planet is like the other. And I think when you start looking at other forms of healing, whether it be Ayurvedic or traditional Chinese medicine in particular, because they are the two oldest systems of medicine on the planet, when you start looking at those, they look at your individual constitution. Let's
Mm.
see, is he more fiery? Is he cooler? Is he more watery? Is he more pungent? Is he more dry? And then they are able to assess and discern what systems would be best for your individual constitutions. We work from a state of one size fits all.
Right. I mean, and I think it's almost I hate to say the word, but it's almost a lazy way of thinking where you just say one size fits all. Just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Well, the truth is we're all different. Here's an example. I'll give an example to our listeners. Garlic is a very healthy food, but I have bad response to it. I have an allergic response to garlic. So people be like, well, why can't you take it? Well, because for me,
Yeah.
my body doesn't like it.
Yeah. Don't like it.
It doesn't like, and I love the taste of it. Don't get me wrong. I love it, but my body doesn't. And so recognizing that, right? Recognizing that you're unique.
Yeah, exactly. You may like it, but it doesn't always like you.
No, it does not. It does not always.
Right. So when we start looking at individualism, we must, when it comes to our well-being, really be discerning. And of course, we all need trusted counsel. That's what I like to believe I'm there for. But we all must be discerning about, what feels right for me. And if we don't stop to assess that, then we are really just relying on the one size fits all method. But when you stop and look at, okay, what could I do differently? Well, somebody told me about Chinese medicine. I mean, maybe I should try that. And now I've really taken it to the most simplistic form. If it feels right, it is right.
Well, there's some truth to that, right?
Okay.
I had an Ayurvedic coach several years ago. She's actually on an earlier interview, Lisa Coyle, very talented. But I do think you're right. You use those as guidelines, but then you always have to listen to your own body. Mm-hmm. and kind of double check it. Is this right for me? And go with that. It's definitely something you have to check out on your own.
Right. So so there's two things. It is trusting yourself, that I find that we are just challenged with, because we have so much information coming at us that we want to listen to it all, and then we don't know what to believe. So there is that. And then the other thing is, we want to take it all in and sometimes believe that it's right for us. And we may even know that it is right for us. But what we sometimes fail at, because as we started out today, Chris, with distractions, is we become distracted. And in order to become competent at anything that we say we want, better health, greater success, achieving, a personal goal, it requires one simple thing. And that is for us to be consistent. That's it. So in order to have competency, if you say, okay, I want to lose that weight, I want to lower my blood pressure so that I don't have to take these medicines, if you say that's what you want, and then we determine a path or process that you can get to that, then it really becomes your job and your job only to be consistent with it. Now, that's where coaching comes in, because there's some things I won't do in the gym without my coach.
Dr. Lori, come on.
Right? I will practice yoga all day, every day. But when it comes to lifting or strengthening certain areas, I'm like, So we all do. We all need trusted counsel. We all need trusted guides. And oftentimes we do need a coach.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we need a coach to get us from point A to point B, or where it is we say we want to go. And so that, I think, is something too that we forget, that that is equally as important. And, quite frankly, it's not just for the rich and famous. It's not. It's not. Everyone, once you decide on what you want, can usually find someone to guide you. Yeah, you might not have them by your side every day, but if once a month you have someone you can check in with, I think most people could do that, but the individual has to decide that they want to be consistent at what it is they say they want.
Yeah, really, we've covered a lot here. We've talked about setting a 0 point so that you're grounded and you can make smart decisions. And we talked about setting an intention. Then we talked about consistency with an intention. Then we've talked about having a mentor to help promote that intention in you. But also we talked about listening to your own inner voice, that while you have a mentor, there's times where you have to listen to your own inner voice. All very valid. I love the idea. My son is 19 and I just had this conversation with him about finding a mentor, and you talk about a coach as a mentor, but in my eyes. And I think when you want to learn any practice, whether that's painting or singing or Tai Chi or dancing, you find someone that's doing it well and you see what they're doing.
Yes.
That's
it. That's that is really it. I mean, I think we have made health and well-being, with our technological advancements and the latest and the greatest and the scientific, I think all of those things are necessary and useful for our progress. But I think we've made it more complicated than it needs to be. I think we can keep things much more simpler than we have. And I think that's really going to be the key, unless we're taking the blue pill or the red pill. It's just keeping life simple and learning just some simple tools, acknowledging, the spirit within. That's your spirit. That's your spirit. It's not an outside spirit, it's your spirit. Also, aligning with nature. It's going to be here. It's been here before us. It's going to be here long after us. What in nature can I connect to? So simple things. What has nature provided for my own healing? Whether that is herbology or whether that's the Earth's magnetic frequency that we can stay grounded to.
Or chamomile tea.
Or chamomile tea, exactly. And I'm growing my own garden, connecting with the earth, the soil, and then watching what one seed can do with some soil, some sun, and some water, and provide nourishment. Wow. I mean, that fascinates me every single day. And then remaining fascinated and awed with life, not burdened and overwhelmed by life, but stopping to be awed by, wow, what's in front of us? And we talked about that, looking up, and it's in your book, which I do have.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the pitch. It's at moments of awe, always looking for the beauty in any situation.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. So those are the things that I think we can really ascribe and prescribe and prescribe for our own personal well-being, and then bringing those conversations to your physician. So you are in charge of you. That's what I tell every patient. You are in charge with you. I am a guide. In fact, it's your vehicle and you're the driver. I'm just the GPS. So what I encourage patients to do is ask for what they want. Now, I realize many doctors aren't trained as I am in all forms of healing, from integrative to mind-body medicine, they are to nutritional medicine. Not all doctors are trained in that. I realize that. But I tell you, the only way that they will get trained is you have to ask. So, doctor, what do you think about the Mediterranean diet? And that's going to begin to push them to learn more. We operate in a supply and demand society. So if you start demanding it, they'll have to start supplying it.
That's a great piece of advice. That really is, to when you go into the doctor, to go in and be aggressive. Don't just yes, 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 and let them push you out the door. You sit there and ask them a specific question. What do you think about this? Because sometimes it's you that has to start the dialogue, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so I write about it in the book. I'll keep you updated,
Oh, yeah.
but and in fact, it's on my blog, top 5 questions to ask your doctor. And I think the number one on there is, once you've been given a diagnosis, then the question that you want to ask, so doctor, is there any alternatives or options for my treatment? And what can I do personally to precipitate my well-being? Is there any alternatives? I mean, you've told me this thing, but is there any alternatives or options, other options?
Right.
Because it isn't one size fits all. And like I said, if you ask those questions, then they'll be triggered just a bit. But I think you can then prompt them to know that this is what you're looking for. And I think when you're in this kind of relationship, it has to be give and take. It isn't all, I'm just going to take what they say.
Right. And, if they're triggered negatively, that tells you something, and that maybe you're at the wrong doctor. There's plenty of options out there, right?
Exactly.
If they give you too much attitude, that's not the right person for you.
Exactly. And so and I realize, doctors have been the authoritarian figure, and most people, many, I won't say most, but some feel intimidated or uncertain about what they should be asking. And I have gotten this a lot, and I will throw a question back to a patient and they'll say, but you're the doctor. I'm like, but this is your body.
Right. That's great. Now, do you do coaching?
Yes. So I have several programs online with that you can, patients can sign up for, or clients can sign up for. I work specifically with breaking that sugar habit, because if I had to take one thing out of the American diet that is killing Americans, it is sugar. And so I have a real simple process of how to get it out of your diet. Most people in the first 10 days don't even want it anymore. And I keep getting emails back like, I've just lost 5 pounds. I just lost 9 pounds. I'm like, I know. So yeah, and then we do kind of twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year detox, because the liver is the hardest working organ in show business. It is the hardest working organ in the body. The liver is. And so we don't think about that. We're all concerned about our heart, but the liver is the detoxifier and holds on to everything from the chemicals in the foods we eat to the chemicals in the drugs we take. And so we really need to give our liver a break and a rest. And I do have a spring cleanup liver detox program. And I have 6 simple solutions to gut health, because the gut is everything. In Chinese medicine, the gut is the source of all healing, as well as all disease. So we can clean the gut up. And then, of course, just like you have found out in your own personal experience, Chris, the mind is everything.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, I will link, you'll have in the bio of this section, everybody, you'll find connections to Dr. Lori's website. And I want to mention those 5 questions to ask your doctor. Is there anything else that you'd like to get that we haven't mentioned? That we're running low.
We have truly covered a lot. The thing that I think I want to leave our listeners with is that really despite all the technology that we have available to us for our health and for our health care, really, I feel like we're in an age where doctors should not just treat you, but they should teach you how to be well. And if we can use that as our new model of how you want to get to your next step of feeling your best, of feeling great, and maybe even living with less medicine, then it's really time that we have to ask our doctors to not just treat us, but teach us how to be well. And that, to me, is where I think healthcare has to go.
Oh, I love that. I really do love that. And I support that 100%. I want to ask our listeners to just take a minute at the end of this podcast and think about in your own life, what physical condition have you accepted as the truth and given up trying to look for solutions? Because we all fall, we all fall into that trap. Oh, it's just this way. So just take a moment and think, what is it in my life that I have accepted that might actually have a solution out there? And if I can believe in that solution, I can find it. That's the key. You have to believe there's a solution, and then you'll find it. So
true.
yeah,
So absolutely true. Yeah, you got to believe it before you can see it. And
right.
so that's a Wayne Dyer.
Yes, and it's very
Yes,
true. It's
yes.
so I want to thank you so much. This has been great. And like I said, we've covered so much in this interview. It has been, I'm looking forward to your book. And if let me know when your book comes out and I'll buy it, and then we'll bring you back and I'll talk about your book.
Well, absolutely, of course. And I'd love to come back and talk to your listeners. I mean, we didn't even talk about artistry, but first of all, I'm loving what's behind you. I'm loving your craft as an artist and how we get to create. And you don't get to create without focus. So back to distractions. The one way to calm our distractions is to focus.
Exactly. And in that mind, that monkey mind, it can happen even when you're being creative. I've been working on a solo show and I find myself at night not falling asleep because my mind is like, da, 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 and you have to stop it because the inspiration can't get through all that, right? Intuition.
But I'm sure once you have a brush in your hand, or once I hear the rhythm of the drum, because I'm a former dancer, once I hear the rhythm of a drum, and that is a place and a point of focus. So if we could all find that, I wish that for all of us, is to find that creative spark, and that gives us a place to focus. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much again, Lori, Dr. Lori. I want to ask you to follow this on YouTube. There's going to be more. There's always more interviews and lots to learn. I always get great comments. Make a comment in the bottom in YouTube on this. Write down what you've been living with, what you've accepted, and maybe what your idea now is, something that inspired you in this interview. Put it in the comments section of YouTube and I will respond to it. And if I need be, I'll reach out to Dr. Lori for you too.
Yes.
So, and also, like I said, the book is on Amazon. My book is on Amazon, and it does inspire you to be more conscious and get to that. I love that. You said 0 point. I love that. So thanks again for being on the Spiritual Artist Podcast, and you have a great week.
Thank you.